My holiness family, again, here we are, aligned, you know, unified, and as you would say, cocked, and got a quick trigger, we ready to go.
Right.
I
You
love
know, the old westerns, you always had one of the guys, was real quick with the trigger, he had to kind of calm him down, and have him to relax before he, do something, that everybody wasn't in sync with.
Right.
But it's always a great honor and a pleasure to be given these opportunities that we can commune in the spirit of unity and oneness as we traverse all of these challenges that has been put before us. I want to continue on. We're going to probably have to close it out a little early, but it's okay because we got forever.
definitely.
Right.
I
Absolutely, Nasik.
want to kind of give us a little review of the things that we talked about. Um, since we talked, I had an opportunity to um, reevaluate some of the things that we said yesterday and to look a little uh, deeper, as you might say, or more in depth to, and the ancestors just been so gracious to us at such a time. I had this thought on my mind that I wasn't. I had the idea how I wanted to say it, but there was a word that was missing, and as it would, manifest itself, one brother came by this morning and he asked me about the word. And when he asked me about the word, I told him, yeah, I'm familiar with it. So he went to look the word up and he began to, express it. And the word was turbid. We talked about it yesterday just briefly, but I didn't look at the English definition to get a more in-depth, understanding of it. And so I needed a few more points put into the document. And as it would happen, I sit down at the computer, and as soon as I sit down at the computer, the sister came by and she typed it in for me. So that's one person. While she's typing it in, the brothers is bringing up the particular word, and another brother walked in bringing a plate back to the house that he had taken some food from the house from the holy days. And I just happened to mention him. Was he familiar with the word? He said, yeah. And then word popped out of his mouth to give me the real magnitude of what, hopefully we get to today and we'll bring it out. Very, very, very much, in complete sync with where we are on this line and what we are trying to do in terms of the method by which we would communicate, with one another as we communicate with the elders. In other words, we don't have to pick up a phone, you know what I'm saying, and call somebody. We getting to that point. These things are happening much more rapidly than that has happened in the past. So this is how gracious I'm referring to the elders have been unto us. So as we go back through the document, we made note that the end time, and again, just mention the word that the brother brought to me this morning, uh, putting everything in succinct and magnified the actual end time and what would be taking place. So very, very profound as to where we are and what is occurring. So just to go back, we made note of the end time challenge, the end time challenge. And you know, first we had to understand the end, that how the end was going to come, it would not just come on its own. No events take place, as we talk about prophecy, the foretelling of an event, and after the event occur, it is called history. Well, we've talked about, in the times past about his story. And, Dan Galloway always talked about how they became professional storytellers, and these stories became history for us as to our, you know, coming out of Africa as opposed to us being Native Americans, etc. And when we look at this history, we talked about how, our predicament was not based on our history, but our predicament as a result of things that we did that was all a part of the forethought of the elders. Profound thinking, because it's hard to wrap your head around the idea that there's a forethought of energy of our forefathers, our elders, those that has gone before us and left us a perfect plan for us to ascend out of this. It's kind of hard to wrap we always see these things somewhat from a mythical, unrealistic perspective and some spirit of something that we can't explain or understand. So now we move from the prophecy and to how this deliverance would be tied to the challenge. And this is before everybody, that everybody's going to have to, make the ascension in order for them to connect themselves to a particular time cycle that, brings an end to them being specifically in the box or the simulated reality. And then we got to this word trouble. And this is where it all started to really unfold. And I want to go back to the word trouble because I want to go to take the word turbid back to give us a little more particular and specific understanding about the word turbid and how it's going to lead us to the method by how we are to communicate this idea of what the ancestors left for us in the narratives of the scriptures. Because we usually want to accuse somebody of the aberrant man of being responsible for rewriting and however it happened, whether he wrote it, but the elders had their hand on what it was that was going to be left as a sign and a signal to us for us to utilize, in this end time prophecy.
Absolutely.
So going back to the word turbid, we'll pick up there. Word turbid, coming from the word trouble. Uh, and it says turbid meant trouble. And in the 13th century, it says to agitate mentally, to worry, disturb. And they gave the definition number one, archaic, to mistreat or oppress. And it said to produce physical disorder in. Physical disorder. Well, let's consider, do the physical come and then after the physical, the spiritual, if you want to use that word, or the energetic, or is it the other way around? The energetic produces the physical. And that's the correct way. The energetic produces the physical, not the physical producing anything.
That's
It is a
correct.
result of that which is energetic, or that which is spirit that produced the physical. Physical disorder. Then it says to afflict, to put in exertion or inconvenience, to put into confused motion, to become mentally agitated, worry, to make an effort, be at pains. So when we looked at the word turbid, it says turbidus means confused, and that's the past tense. But then it said from turba, confused, which would be quote unquote the present tense. Then it says crowd, akin to Old High Greek, means to stir or to throw into disorder, to disturb, to confusion, heavy with smoke or mist. Now, this is a key point here. To be heavy, and this is the word confusion, 1626, when it was coined, and it says heavy with smoke or mist. Now, think for a moment. You remember in the scriptures it says that a mist went up from the earth to water the whole face of the earth. Now, we know we read
Same.
that, but we know what that meant.
Yes.
No idea what that meant, you know. And then it goes on to say 2a. Now, this is the key. It says, deficient in clarity or purity. This is what done happened with us. This mist
Mm-hmm.
that went up, created a deficiency of clarity or purity, and they say the word foul, in characterized by or producing obscurity as of mind or emotions. And this is what then happened to us. Remember now, we keep talking about the mind. This is
Mm-hmm.
something that was acquired in the simulated reality. So now, under the simulated reality and experience, we have become characterized by obscurity, trying to utilize the mind and our feelings to try to understand what it is that we are doing that we can't reverse our condition. And we have not come up with the answer under that concept of the mind. And as a result, we find ourselves deficient in every element of what we are trying to accomplish in terms of reversing our predicament. Reversing our predicament. No longer we are without the knowledge. We are now come into the knowledge of how to do this now. And what we went on to do, we linked a cycle of time to this obscurity that had to do with the 1500 to 1700. In that period of time, we quoted that there was a dramatic shift in the way people pictured the world and in their whole way of thinking. The new mentality and the new perception of the cosmos gave our Western civilization the features that are characterized of the modern era. And we quoted that from The Turning Point by Fritjof Capra. In the old copy, it's page 39. And this cycle of time, 1500 to the 1700, played a major role in this whole transition into the, and lack of a better word, the fulfillment of an idea of the simulated reality. They use science and technology, to obscure us from, quote unquote, the energetic cosmic relationship that we formerly, had knowledge of, and coming under this influence of rationalism, dualistic way of viewing things, it just obscured everything. Just obscured everything. So we we went from there and we started to talk about how this trouble that everybody was to inherit that was prevalent in terms of the preparation for deliverance. And we said when we review the allegorical perspective of the narrative of Daniel 12, if we did not understand it from an allegorical point of view, we would find ourselves deceived in respect to the time cycle of the trouble that never was since there was a nation. And then we went on to say that time cycle would have everything to do with, quote unquote, us activating it, because events never ever take place on their own. Someone is responsible for activating it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Nothing happens on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So this time of trouble is the reason that it is said that Michael would stand up for the children of the people. Went on to say Michael is an allegorical representation of a form of strength and wisdom needed to be able to transition out of such a time that has never been experienced in this dispensation. And there we went on to express a term, said, many of those that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. So here we got everlasting life, we got everlasting shame, and everlasting contempt. Now, of course, we know sleep, yashan, primitive root means to be slack or to languid by implying sleep, and figuratively to die. Because when you literally physically go to sleep, you is in a state wherein that if there's no dream, you don't even know if you sleep or you're not. You don't know what's happening, so to speak. Also, to grow old, stale, invertebrate, meaning to be aged or to grow old, become firmly established by long, persistent positions, evaluations, confirmations that you have been what? Programmed to believe in. And it creates a habit. And you know, we have said we are creatures of habit. Well,
Mm-hmm.
the habit that we have what? Become a creature of, it has caused us to find ourselves very obstinate, and very tenacious about being obstinate, in terms of being, in a position of um, comfort. I'll use that word, a position of comfort, in terms of believing that at some point, somebody, that's external of yourself, gonna have mercy on you being a good person, moralistic being, is gonna come to your rescue. That's our religious view of things. And being in that predicament, we have many opinions about our purpose, even spite of reason and argument of persuasion not being easily subdued or remedied or removed from that obstinate position that we have taken through being persistent in the things that we have come to believe and accept as true and valid. But we got to remember now, what is deception? To cause one to accept what is true and valid, what is faulty and invalid, rather, to be true and valid. And this is exactly the position that humanity has, come under the influence of. So we
Mm-hmm.
end up yesterday with a word called aversion. And this is going to take us into a very significant point about how we have, you know, we has and we have an aversion for things that are pleasurable outside of the organic reality, and we kind of refuse to. We see the organic reality, I mean the inorganic reality, the assimilated reality, to be the only reality that we know about.
Mm-hmm.
And now in that reality, we have become very, very, much rooted, you know, and we have become intoxicated. And in this intoxication, we find ourselves in a very rigid position in terms of letting go of the way we used to view things. So this aversion to change, we went to a point in spontaneous evolution that is very significant to the things that we've been talking about energy. And this is a what we may refer to as a survival, evaluation of the kind of energy that must be applied and that is used and the effects it have in a survival mode. And we read it on this wise. It says, quote, the total energy represents the total amount of energy available to drive the organism's life process. We're talking about the total energy that's needed for the driving of our organism in the life process. Energy generates the body's behaviors and movements. No energy, no body behavior or movement. Without energy, no movement. In fact, a body without energy is called a cadaver. So without energy, you are considered dead. No life.
Mm.
Quote, growth mechanism, growth expenses represent the energy expenditures used by physiological systems to secure energy, maintain the body's health and well-being, and to help it grow. These growth mechanisms collectively contribute to the organism's ability to find, to ingest, digest food, absorb nutrients, and eliminate waste. Well, Eitai been telling us about what we do: eat, sleep, work, eat, sleep. That's the ritual that we've been in. That's the cycle that we've been in.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
That's the transit cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So what's being laid out here is the energy in the transit cycle and how you must utilize it in order to keep going. This is key now. Growth occurs when the organism uses energy to convert nutrients into complex molecules
That's right.
needed to
Yes.
rebuild or replace worn out cells.
Mm-hmm.
Perception mechanism. Now, here where we run into the problem. Protection mechanism.
That's correct.
Protection mechanism are indispensable to survival. In the human body, the mechanisms include the adrenal system, fight or flight reaction to external threats, and the immune system's response to internal pathogens. So your immune system, have to respond to internal pathogens. Now, when that takes place, if the energy is being what? Geared toward internal pathogens, then a situation come where fight or flight, then the body going to shift away from one area to the other because it can't be in the same place doing opposite things.
That's correct.
Right. Right.
So it has to go one where, and this is very important because why? We gotta understand that the cycle of the simulated reality is up and down, right and wrong, good and evil. You're
That's right.
always back and forth.
That's right.
Right.
You see, so this cycle is not a cycle of everlasting. This is a cycle that has to have a, you know what I'm saying, an end to it, you know. The term I want to use is transient.
That's right.
Come in for a short time and what? Leave out. Don't last long.
Mm-hmm.
And we see, you know, and we read the narrative of the scriptures where the allegorical term of Methuselah, 969 years. And so now we began to compare it to today, and we say, wow, 70 years, you done good to make it 70 years
Right.
in the
Right.
transit. So it's something wrong with this simulated reality that we got to look at as we look at these particular, you know, total energy growth mechanism and protection mechanism in the energy allocation. We
Nasik.
continue on. It's not
Nasik.
hard to believe that you can make it beyond, you know, this term of transit. That there's no way that you can what get beyond this transit. But again, we coming into a knowledge now that things are shifting out of the transit back to the cosmic, you know, organic cosmic, you know, cycle. Now that's a whole other kind of energy. Am I right, Eitai?
That is correct.
So we go on. Environmental threats force an organism to withdraw a substantial quantity of energy from its energy reserves. And we are, uh, give me a moment here. Um, this word, to reallocate that energy toward the protection of its very life.
That's right.
So now we find that situations in the environment, you know, the fight or flight, you understand, the fear, you know, all the disgruntlement, the worry and the anxiety, all the things that, quote unquote, you are faced with as the trouble, we find here that the energy reserves are reallocated when it is what? Set in motion toward protection of its very life. The more fear or stress an organism perceives, the more energy it diverts for protection. So you have to really be now, but here we were taught that the fear of the Lord is what? Wisdom. Okay,
Right.
so now we're then saying now the heart or the brain have to now be what? Qualified or able to differentiate what kind of fear. Well, fear
Mm-hmm.
is fear, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Fear ain't, you know, we were then made to believe that fear, and there's a good fear and there's a bad, well, again, that's the duality of the simulated reality.
Mm-hmm.
These are the
That's right.
perceptions that you gain from it. So fear, you know, is the beginning of wisdom. I never ever really was able to grasp that in my fullness, but nevertheless, now it's a little bit more clear. He said, because growth and protection behaviors are funded, I'm sorry, by the organism's energy reserve. So if you have a consistent situation where you're always in fear and you're always utilizing the fight or flight, you know, element of the organism, your energy reserve is being diminished on a regular basis.
That's right.
And the greater the fear, the more energy is needed, you know, to divert the protection. And when that happens, the cost of protection curtails or inhibits growth. So you can't be in growth and protection at the same time. So let's stop
Right.
there and ask ourselves a question about our growth. Now let's lay aside the physical body because we all have grown big as we need to be in terms of the physical element. But when you get to talk about growth, now we talk about the growth of another kind of energy of consciousness.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Because you
Mm-hmm.
can't be in growth and protection at the same time. So now we can kind of, get a real clear perception as to why many people are not growing. They are reading and studying, but they ain't growing. They are not what? Evolving. They're not developing. They're not ascending. They stay in the same place.
That's
Now
right.
we can see why. It's very clear why now. So, continuing on, so this is why in our survival index growth and protection process, subtract energy from an organism system. Simply put, an organism's survival is compromised by the amount of energy it must expend to protect itself, which is why an organism can be literally scared to death.
Wow.
Literally
Wow.
scared to death. So this
Wow.
fear thing, now, how did the fear, how did the fear be what the beginning of wisdom? We couldn't mean fear is the beginning of wisdom in the sense that we understood fear. But if it's the beginning, the only wisdom is that fear is not something that you need to be what? Endowed in, and find yourself always, in a position where you're in a fight or flight situation, you're in a state of worry, or
Right.
concern, anxiety all the time. That's what causing death to be what? More imminent, more imminent. So we are looking at how energy being utilized and how it can what? Either produce growth or diminish growth and cause death. Very, very important. Very important.
Extremely important.
So we're going to have to understand the significance of getting another kind of energy from another source. Continue on.
Just that simple.
Ideally, energy is expended for growth and reproduction, with as little as possible spent on defense. This simple differentiation in energy allocation is due to the fact that energy used for growth nets more energy for the system, while energy used for protection offers no return on your investment. Now, if we come to, now that's the wisdom that we would get out of this. That the wisdom that we get out of this, that we cannot be in fear in any time, because if it just so happened, once in a while, then we can what? Redevelop or require or an inquire of another source for another understanding of how to prevent, our diminishing of our energy. Because if the energy keep diminishing, there ain't gonna be nothing left. You ain't gonna be around very long.
Right.
Very long. Then we go to the book of Daniel. Now, this is where it comes into one of the most significant points that takes us back to the word turbid again. Now, here we go. That quote there came from Spontaneous Evolution, page 244 and 245, 259 and 260. And we quote, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Then I, Daniel, looked." And I'm saying I I'm saying I, you in the present tense. I'm
Came.
not talking about Daniel in the allegorical sense. Are
Come
you
on.
following me now?
Right.
Yeah.
This is how we got to look at this. It says, look, and behold, there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. Now, when you read this, and really when you really understand what is being said here, it's so profound. It is so profound, but it will make all the sense as we look at this. Commentary. Well, before we get to the commentary, we'll go on with the next verse. Verse 6. It says, and one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river. Now listen to the language. The man clothed in linen, which was up on the waters of the river. Now, how you can't even picture that being in a physical sense. Got to listen carefully here because this brings out the key. He says, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen. So he spoke, and we must speak today in respect to this allegory and put it in a contemporary, you understand, understanding of how we can utilize this today, which was up on the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand. You keep hearing duality, right
Yes.
and left
Mm-hmm.
unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times and a half, and when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. Well, we know of a surety that the power of the people that is being referred to as holy, that means that the power of humanity in the simulated reality, their power has been what? In it. They have no power.
Yes.
That's
They
right.
have absolutely no power. They are using force and perceiving that is some kind of power.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're going to explain and see what the power is and how we understand it. We go on to say here commentary now. Here we will take the introspection and retrospection of the narrative concerning the man clothed in linen. And the word linen is bod in Hebrew and it's 906, but it's taken from 909. It says it means divided fibers. Now, hear the word divided fibers.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't think about bod in the literal sense of some cloth. We got to understand what is being said here divided fibers, hence a linen garment. Okay, then we say the word linen is 909, is badad, and it means a primitive root to divide. Here we go. To
Mm.
divide, i.e., inflexive, to be solitary or alone. Now, here we find to find yourself in solitary alonement. Now, all of us know this is what you usually do when you want to pray in the simulated world. You get into a quiet, solitary place of alonement, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you got to
Mm-hmm.
also remember that this concept was taken from the organic concept. The
Mm-hmm.
alonement here has nothing to do with you in the sense of you running off from humanity, trying to hide. How do you hide from everything? There's no way to hide. The alonement means what? You in wholeness.
Mm-hmm.
Oneness. This is the alonement.
Mm-hmm.
The
Come on,
alonement.
Nasik.
Now, in this state of alonement, it says, thus revealing the way to utilize the element of intuition as we contemplate the deep symbols concerning the allegorical man upon the waters of the river as Yeor. Yeor is 2975. It's a channel. Now listen carefully here. Say, for this is the method being given for energetic communicating the way, course, or direction of thought, describing a particular condition that will occur in time. This is the true method given by the intuitive, self-engineering, self-consciousness as an inner bridge to communicate that from within the inner consciousness as way of transitioning out of the simulated reality. Now, listen to me. We have to understand here, you've heard the term that they have a term they call bridge over troubled waters, right?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we heard the term, but we didn't understand what that meant. This is what is referred to as a bridge over troubled water. This is our example, the bridge. Now listen carefully. A noun, 12th century. 1A, a structure carrying a pathway or roadway over depression or obstacle. A
Mm-hmm.
time or means of connection or transition. We have the bridge, the method by how we transition out of the simulator back to the organic, and it must be a mode of communicating with the what? Knowledge of the self, of self-consciousness, of your higher
Mm-hmm.
self. Other than that, you ain't gonna get it. You're
Mm-hmm.
just not gonna get it. It
Mm-hmm.
has to come from intuitive. And we're going to verify this here. We're going to verify this. I'll read again. This is the true method given by the intuitive self-energizing self-consciousness as an inner bridge to communicate that from within the inner consciousness as a way of transitioning out of the simulated reality. This is what is referred to as the bridge over troubled waters. Continuing on, this gives us great clarity of the narrative as to the reason the writer tells us to seal up the book until the time of the end. Many will run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Our knowledge has increased just like it was promised. Then we are told that our Daniel was able to behold, to see into the future today, as we find
Mm-hmm.
ourselves standing on the other side of the waters slash river. When we consider this idea in an energetic realm, the word bank on the other side of the bank, the word is sapphire, a prime root, it says to scrape, literally to shave, but usually figuratively to accumulate or increase or weigh, that is to scatter, remove, or ruin, in transit, to perish, to add, to augment, to increase our organic consciousness and awareness to transcend the simulated earth's plane of reality. If we are not able to transcend this simulated reality, and the only way we can do it is to increase our organic consciousness and awareness, and that will come by us having the ability to go inward, to be more intuitive of the self, and the self is directly connected to all things. As I read to us yesterday, we continue to blame external forces, but the self, is really, an integral part of the universe itself. Continuing on with the same idea, we're going to verify this. This is relative to a particular time, Moed 4150, Moad, I'm sorry, 4150, feminine Moadah, appointment, i.e., a fixed time or season. From 3259, Ya'ad, a prime root to fix by an agreement or a covenant to meet at a stated time, a specific festive time, to summon to. The time are fixed as time and times and a half, which is the concept of half is 2677, and it's pronounced Ka'atsi. It means from 2673, Ka'atsa, a prime root to cut or split into half, to divide. Ka'atsa, a prime root to chop into pieces, to sever, hence to curtail, to distribute, in a piercer, i.e., an arrow by implying a wound. We have been in a predicament where we have been wounded. We have been put in a predicament where we are weakened. We have been at the mercy of the aberrant, society, because they were robbed us of the knowledge of our unity and oneness and wholeness, put us at odds with one another, not in harmony and unity. Now we're going to use the scriptural references of Mark, the 7th chapter, verse 14 through 23, to put it in perspective that it is nothing from the external that's going to be able to harm you. We just was told that, and we accepted it. We read verse 14. And when he had called all the people unto him, he said unto them, hearken unto me, every one of you, and understand. Come out of him, those are they that defile the man. It's nothing that come out of him that defiles a man. If any man have ears to hear, let him hear. 17. And when he was entered into the house from the people, his disciples asked him concerning the parable. And he said unto them, are you so without understanding also? Do you not perceive that whatsoever thing from without enters into the man, it cannot defile him? 15. No, I'm sorry, 19. There's nothing from without a man that's entered into him that can defile him, but the things which cometh out of him, those are the things that defile him, because it enters into his heart, but it enters not into his heart, but into his belly, and goes out in the drought, purging all meats. And he said, that which cometh out of the man, that defiles the man. For from within Out of the heart of man proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornication, murders. 22. Thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, and evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. 23. All these things come from within and defiles the man. So it's not what cometh out of a man, because you stop and think for a moment. Whatever it is that you hear with the ears, it didn't come from without, it come from within somebody, from within something into you. And we have been made to believe that these are the things that, but when you understand it on another level, we find the key here. We must remember that it is absolutely nothing that comes from outside that affects or harms an individual. And we will take our wisdom from the narrative above attributed to Yeshua/Jesus Christ. We will seek to verify this by using the meaning of the word extraneous. The word extraneous is a Latin, it's an adjective from Latin. Sterneous, more estranged. 1638. One, existing on or coming from the outside. Now, it says that which come from the outside exists on things that come from the outside. Then number two, it says not forming an essential or vital part. And anything coming from the outside, it says it does not form anything that is essential, that is necessary, because it's not vital. It's not a part of the vital part. B, having no relevance. 3, being a number obtained and solving an equation that is not a solution of the equation. Now, let's stop there for a moment. Every solution that we have gotten supposed to solve the problems of humanity. We find that there is no solution to the problem. The problem gets worse. The problem gets worse because what? We've been given, quote unquote, a concept of an equation that is not a solution to the equation.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
There is no solution that's going to come from the external simulated reality. Because remember now, we are looking for what we call causes in the world of effects. And we have not found one cause as to what is causing the problem in the simulated reality of the world of effects. We look at the effects, but we have not been able to what? Understand what the cause is. So now we see that this external effect that we're looking at will never give us the answer to the cause or the solution to changing the predicament.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So we continue on. We says the concept above becomes the priority and objective to be accomplished as a goal within the simulated reality to foster, that is to nurture, to promote the growth or development of, to encourage the patriarchal system of governing by the European Arab man. This is why he fostered the idea of patriarchal system, because what does it do? It keeps you in the cycle of degeneration. It keeps you in the cycle of the transit. It keeps you in the death cycle. It keeps you in the cycle of worry. It keeps you in the cycle of what? Trouble. It keeps you in the cycle of all the things that is what? Detrimental to your life. That's what it does. That's the purpose of it.
Nasik.
So, yes, sir.
So the real God in the simulated reality is not the world religions. The real God is dualism.
Absolutely.
Religion
Absolutely.
religion is just the manifestation of dualism. It's the image.
It's the deliverance.
All these world religions are just the image of this dualistic spirit.
See, the dualistic idea had to have some, external verification
Yes,
that all of humanity we brought into its existence
yes,
by virtue of creating the book
yes,
called the
yes,
Bible that
yes,
was nothing but a verification of how to structure the simulated reality and how to maintain you in it. That's what Eitai been telling us about in the box and
exactly,
how to stay in it.
exactly, exactly.
So dualism, you understand, becomes the what? The crux of the core of the
Yes.
what? Belief system that keeps you
Mm-hmm.
in the box.
Yes.
That's right.
Keeps you in the
Yes.
box. That's why it said in Isaiah, I think it's the 5th chapter, verse 19 or 20, where it says, woe unto you that call what? Up, down, bittersweet,
Mm-hmm.
right,
Mm-hmm.
wrong. This is
Mm-hmm.
what, if you fall victim to duality and everybody on the planet through
Yes.
dualism and the rationalistic way of viewing things, this was what happened in the 1500 to the 1700. This was there was what? Masterminding how to create this reality under rationalism that would put everybody in the box and give European Arab man
Yes.
the dominant power of control through the patriarchal system of duality.
That's
Yes.
Just put everybody in the box.
Yes.
This ain't happened no long time ago. This is
Yes.
400 years ago. This is
Right.
the that Eitai been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So that hopefully, Eitai, how we on time? We all right?
we all right, Nasik. Look, don't start worrying about it till noon. We're good.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay.
Nasik,
So go ahead. Talk to me.
I just wanted to point something out that is just this is happening like you alluded to, and you actually stated it at the beginning that so many revelations are occurring on a daily basis. I got to show you all again. Before we came on, I was adding this word katzin, all right,
I see it. Right.
for my portion on the prophecy of the blue kachina, right?
Okay. Right.
And in it, because it caught my attention that the Hopi word for that they're translating as kashina or kachina is the word katsina or katsinim. That is
Uh huh.
Hebrew. That sounds so much like Hebrew. So I started to look for the word in Hebrew. And of course it led me to this word katsin.
Okay.
It eventually means to cut off. All right. It eventually means to cut off or cut short. You just introduced the word when you were translating or you were decoding times, and half times. It's the word katsa.
Right. 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 Right.
So all of this stuff is so woven together. It means to cut in half, to divide, to cut off. This stuff is this uh, message is coming forth, family. We just got to put on our antenna. And the way that we do that, we got to shift from intellect to
Mm-hmm.
intuition. This is the context
Mm-hmm.
of what Nasik
Mm-hmm.
is talking about. This message is just being repeated over and over again. And now it's being demonstrated on a daily basis in real time to us. So,
Eitai.
yes,
And also this verifies what you were sharing with us about um the speed of light.
yes,
Be- because all this that we're getting is coming literally at the speed of light.
it's beyond that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually beyond the speed of light. But yeah, it's quick. You know, we're talking about this ability to be of quick understanding. So all
Mm-hmm.
of this stuff is fitting together, is speaking to us on a daily basis, and we
Mm-hmm.
can't really ignore anything that is being said at this point. Just want to make that observation, Nasik.
No, no, that's so perfect and right on time. It's these are the kind of testimonies that verify that we have moved into a realm of consciousness, particularly on this line, that is giving us the terminology, that language,
Yes,
thing that we
Mm-hmm.
can put together so we can actually begin to what visualize the process by
Mm-hmm.
how we move, you understand,
Mm-hmm.
in our consciousness, energetic consciousness, out of a condition or a situation that we have not had the knowledge of how to do this.
that's
You
right.
know,
Can.
we ain't had the knowledge of none of this here. These
Right,
words was
Mm-hmm.
always right there, but what has led us to these words today?
Right.
It ain't nothing but consciousness.
that's right.
Right. Can.
you know. So, oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. 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 Continuing on, when we consider the allegory of the narrative, we are able to understand that this is all centered on the personal and national energetic responsibility of the individual, you understand, that desires to maintain control within the simulated reality. Continuing on, we're also given a greater view from the narrative above concerning the prophetic time cycle of the end. This would be when the accomplishing of the scattering the power of the holy people. We must understand that the power of a people is their wholeness, oneness, and singularity. And when that is lost, it is the end.
That's
That
right.
is your end.
That's
When you
right.
lose your wholeness and oneness and singularity, that is your end. This is the end we must focus on. The reason is because any other concept, idea, would be a false end. Thus, we must seek our answers from the intuitive solution of wholeness. We will never find the power of wholeness within any of the parameters of the directives we have acquired in the simulated reality. Thus, we can conclude this is an absolute position with complete authority that this is just the truth because all of our power has been scattered slash weakened and then completed. And
Mm.
we go on to the word scatter, primitive word to dash to pieces, to scatter, to be beaten in sunder, break in pieces, to be disagreed, dispersed, overspread. And we see that there's a major disagreement that continues to happen daily with people in the simulated reality. Now, when you go back and think about this, remember now, and I really would like us to think, very intuitive on this. let's go back and ask ourselves the question about the Genesis created process. You know, when we look back, and everybody like to use the law of Moses, the law of Moses. Everything is the law. Well, when we go back now and ask ourselves about the scattering of our power, and we find the word here to disagree. But what was it about the law that kept controversy, you know, and enmity? Because I will put enmity between thee and the woman, because what? It's two perceptions always. And wherever there's two perceptions of anything, there's it always leads to the possibility of disagreement,
Correct.
confusion, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So, but the word was what? I'll make a new covenant, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but the old covenant was broken. Why was the old covenant always broken? And the question was, where was the old covenant placed there? You know, but it said, I'll put the new one in your inward part. So my question is, where was the old covenant at?
Mm-hmm.
Where was
Right.
the old covenant that they kept
Right.
breaking? It wasn't in their heart. Where was it at?
Come on, Nasik.
We got to ask these questions because it said, but they broke the oath and there, but the new one gonna put it in your heart. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the new covenant, the new agreement. But here we find the word covenant or agreement was always broken. And I love Dan Calloway because he was talking about, he showed Marlon Brando, and Marlon Brando just spilled everything and said, you know, everything that we learned about Native America was cowboy and Indians. And he said, America made all these, and he counted how many uh, agreements, you know, and treaties that they ain't kept none of them.
None of them.
None of them. So again, we back to this covenant thing and this law. When we talk about this law, we got to understand that the law was that which was created within the simulated reality.
Mm-hmm.
It,
Come
That's right.
on. Yes.
this ain't the organic. The
That,
organic law is what? You
hold.
know, remember what it said. He said, love Yah with all your heart, soul, and mind, love your name. On these commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Well, that's unity and oneness, isn't it?
That's correct.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
then, if that's unity and oneness and wholeness, that's what the law is.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to talk about law, that would have to be the law.
Simple as that.
We're
Right.
talking about 713 laws or something. You
Right.
can't even,
Right.
come on now. So, Markel, we can see that he truly has been confused, right?
That's right.
Right. Big time.
Turbid, confused. Uh, After considering every aspect of the concept of trouble by the various meaning, it reflects a female rival. Now, 1577, one of two or more striving to reach or obtain something that only one can possess. And we continue to see how this duality keeps everybody at odds. Thus, this clarity reflects the war of trouble between the right and left hemisphere of the masculine and feminine energy of
Uh-huh.
the brain, which has
Mm-hmm.
been erroneously defined as the mind, was
Mm-hmm.
purposely and correctly defined within the simulated reality. The power to define in the simulated reality was and is to deceive everyone to believe something different, to keep controversy and enmity.
Yes.
This will surely lead to trouble, contempt, and aversion to avoid or turn from something or someone that is abhorred. under the dominion of division and separation, time is shortened from eternal and everlasting
There you
to
go.
that which is transit.
There you go.
Now, under the dominion of division and separation, time is shortened. But you read this
Mm-hmm.
in the book of Daniel, the 12th chapter, so time, time was shortened,
Yes.
you know. So here we go. Continuing on. We must reverse the social engineering abnormal order back to the normal order. Back to the normal order. The time of trouble has already happened and is still taking place and will continue to exist within the simulated reality until we change the time from division and transit back to wholeness and unity, back to
Mm-hmm.
the eternal and everlasting.
Yes.
Now, this trouble will always exist as long as we in the simulated reality of division. It must create a transit situation, moving in, you understand, and what? Shortly moving out. You come on the scene, and what? You make it 70 years. I mean, you happy to get to 70.
Right.
You're nothing but a baby. You know?
I'm still in diapers.
Right, still in diapers. All right, we're trying to close this out now. Here we go. Coming on, we said the kind of strength that's needed, which is courage, that is relative to a particular level of consciousness. Understanding that this is the time of everyone's deliverance, it is revealed that the only way that one will be delivered will be one that is found written in the book. The book is the realm of consciousness where wholeness brings all that reach this level of ascension. They will place their names in the book to be delivered. In other words, your name is in the book only because you put it in the book. And the book is a realm of consciousness.
That's it.
If you
Mm-hmm.
don't put it in the realm of consciousness, then there is no book for you to put your name in.
This is that's it.
Is that clear now? We talk about the book of
Dang.
life.
That's clear.
Consciousness is God, the creator of life, because it is integrally and intrinsically tied to
Still quick.
what?
Too
Melanin.
high. Faster. I
Was that a question or comment?
I don't know. We got had a lot of reverb there. Uh, I don't know if that was inadvertent or, but continue on.
Okay. This book is the realm of consciousness where wholeness brings all that reach this level of ascension. They will place their name in the book to be delivered. All which comes into this realm of consciousness where wholeness activate the reunion of the masculine and feminine energy in the marriage of two being one. The concept of trouble created from the rivalry never begins as an external problem, but one that is internal. The most devastating of all problems are the ones that create internal trouble, which can only be resolved from within. The major problems that exist on the planet today are called is caused by the internal conflict of the masculine and feminine division caused by dualism that gave humanity its rational views and their worldview for their own destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Closing last point. The new birth for deliverance is the acceptance of neuromelanin consciousness as the creative power of the entire cosmos slash universe. The neuromelanin consciousness is the creative power of the entire cosmos universe. It has been given many names such as God, Yahweh, Krishna, nature, the field, and divinity. This will be the major challenge facing everyone's deliverance as the obstacle predicated upon rigidity, which is the programming of dualism. The greatest obstacle to an individual being born again is the embarrassment that he has to face concerning his past, having to acknowledge before family and friends, superiors and subordinates, that she has been wrong.
Wow.
Mm.
That's
Wow.
the greatest obstacle to being born again.
Mm.
That is not a small thing.
No.
Not at
No,
all.
That
no.
is monumental to
Yes.
admit that
Yes.
you have been wrong.
Mm.
So we close on that point, and again, hope that it was clear enough for the graph. The notes will be coming out right away, and things that was not understood, maybe looking at it, reading and meditating, you will come to understand these things a little bit more. So with that, wholeness to the family, love and blessings. Adeo Lam forever. Peace.
That's it.
All